Hello, and welcome to the 50th episode of A Wealthy Life podcast with me, Vicky Wishay. I entitled this one, This End is Just the Beginning, and we're going to hammer home some of the basics because what I want to do is a roundup of some of the key podcast episodes that I think you should have a listen to before we move forward into the next 50 episodes. And the next 50 are going to very much be focusing on finances, on leveraging your resources, and very much so on property investment, because I firmly believe that understanding how property works is what wealthy people do. The uber wealthy all understand the role that property plays in their lives, and you need to understand it so that you can rule it in, rule it out. If you choose to rule it out, what are you going to replace it with? Because you will understand the purpose that it serves. And that's what I want to cover with you in this episode. And what I'm also going to do is share a story that I hope will offer you insights, in part as this final roundup of the first 50 episodes, but also because I think in this story, when I was thinking about it the other day for myself, and then I thought, I need to write this down and see if there are actually lessons here. And if there are lessons, do these lessons correspond with the message that I wanted the other 50 episodes to share with you? And I do believe it does. So I'm going to choose to share a story about playing games on our phones. So we can all download games on our phones. Maybe you do it on your iPad, maybe you do it on your computer. But that idea that you've got some device close at hand and you pick it up and you while away some time. Maybe what you're doing is, picking three of a color. Maybe you're shooting something. For me, I decided in late November, early December 2022, that I was going to download one of these games, something a bit more complex, rather than just the matching three colors or, emptying little bottles or moving balls. I wanted to understand why people got involved in playing these quite complex games of building communities. So you'll see some of them are about shooting, some of them are about fighting zombies. And the one that I picked was about farming, because that sort of felt more in line with my love of gardening. And what I wanted to do was find one that met my needs. And so after testing a couple, and I think I probably downloaded 2 or 3, played a few games, maybe 5 games on each, just to see what it felt like. After testing a couple, I found a game that offered for me the right mix of new and interesting subroutines. So I wasn't just doing the same old thing all the time and being bored. I also like competition. I like to know that I'm doing it right. So I wanted to have some sort of scoring process or some sort of do this activity and receive a reward for it. I think in all honesty, I did want to know that I was doing probably better than other people, because if I'm not doing better than someone else, how do I know that I have learned all that I can learn? So it's feeding everything. I'm probably letting you know far too much about the inner workings of my weird psyche, but stick with it. This is a metaphor. I'm going to get to it. So as the game progressed, I increased my range of crops. So I could first grow wheat, then corn, then tomatoes, etc. I built and then manage factories. So the factories would take my wheat and my corn and my carrots and make it into food for my animals. Or it might combine tomatoes with wheat and chili and make some sort of a wrap that my Mexican restaurant had. So I had factories and restaurants. And the point of having the factories and the restaurants was so that I could fill customer orders. So basically, customers would come into my online shop and they would want products. And those products were either the raw materials, like they might want some wheat or some corn or some tomatoes, or they might want products that I had made from the crops that were in my farm. I could then also go on and fulfill orders that came in on planes, on trains, and ships. Okay. Another interesting little subroutine popped up, and this was where there was a mine, and I could go mining in the mine, and I would find gold and platinum and silver and bronze and clay and gems, and all of those could then be used in making products, building my community, if you like, building my town, and providing amenities, because then I had people in my town and they needed a golf course and a snow run and all sorts of other things that I needed to provide for them. The game was so very clever. It demanded my attention every day. Every day there was a daily gift. It was offered, it was coins, it was lives. If I didn't log in every day, I would miss the free coins, the free lives, or the free tokens, or whatever the gifts were that day. It demanded my attention hourly, not just daily, but hourly, because there was something called a marketplace. And in the marketplace, there was a merchant, if you like, a warehouse that would supply me with products I couldn't produce or that I couldn't make in enough quantity. And this was refreshed every hour. So if I didn't go in every hour, I missed the opportunity to suddenly get a whole pile of products that I could then pass on to my customers, who would give me the coins. The coins allowed me to buy the houses and the factories. And so it became a self-fulfilling prophecy. The more invested I became in the township, the more volume of orders that I was creating. I'll just do that again because I had to stop and cough. So as I became more invested in the township, as I fulfilled more orders, I increased my need to spend more time playing the game, because as more orders came in, I had to grow more products. I had to make all of my factories. I mean, I think I had 20 or 30 factories at the end of this. I had to make sure that they were all producing as they should be producing. And it was demanding more and more and more of my time. And that was before the special events. So the special events, I felt, were sent to distract. They were sub-games, which really resulted in nothing towards the overall township other than a distraction. That's just my opinion. So I mostly stopped playing those games because it took me away from working on my township, but also it demanded yet more of my time. It's just extraordinary how much time this game started to suck. There was one other thing that the game offered, and this was a zoo. And when I opened up the zoo and I looked at it and I looked what other, if they were actual people playing in my community, were doing, it was just another distraction. And I found that you could either feed your animals or you could feed your people. I didn't feel like you could do both unless you were prepared to pay a lot of money and then actually buy coins, buy what they called golden tickets. And this gave you special privileges to do everything else. So now, not only was it sucking time, it was sucking money. And while you could get rewards, prizes for contributing to the overall growth of your town, it required a degree of commitment. So you had to be part of a community. You got an award for being part of a community. The community that you were in would then participate in a regatta. So just really achieving tasks that moved your little boat along. Achieving the regatta meant that you were going to get more rewards at the end of that. And what I noticed in the community in the regatta was that I thought some of the people were probably real, because some people, when I asked a question, replied. But sometimes I would ask a question and no one would respond at all. And I wondered if I was the only real person in this community and the rest weren't just programmed bots. So I've now got daily gifts to make me come on daily. I've got hourly access to a marketplace which supplies more of the things that I want in order to build my community if you're playing along with the game. I've then got weekly competitions, which were often just another distraction because they required you to focus on the boats, the trains, or the mining, or just maybe growing one crop rather than managing the whole town, and often something then slipped. Within just 2 weeks of playing this game, I realized that the game had become a job. I was a farmer. I had crops and animals that needed my attention. I was a factory owner. I was a shopkeeper. I was a miner. And I was thinking, my entire life, I've avoided being an employee. And yet, in order to play this game and play along with this game, I've actually had to become an employee. Something that I wanted to be fun was already time consuming, costing me real cash money as I participated and wanted to win the subroutines, and therefore I had to buy more coins or something. And I felt like the need to feed animals, grow and harvest crops and fill orders and everything else. There was a point, a real lull in the game where I didn't want to play it anymore. And I thought, this is where the learning is. Go a little bit longer. I committed that I was just going to play this for a month, so keep going. And now be more observational about it. Notice that it had sucked you in for 2 weeks. Now see if you stand back and play it, what can you learn? So the game started to intrude on my family life, because as I needed to attend every hour, I needed to feed my animals, I needed to harvest my crops, I needed to fill my boats, planes and trains, I was starting to sneak off to the toilet at a family occasion, taking my phone with me just so I could check in at the marketplace and download the extra products and store them in the warehouse. And then I could, when I got some time on my own, then fill all of the orders because I'd stacked all of this stuff up. I'm not going mad here. I was enjoying the experience of observing the impact of the game. But what if you weren't consciously aware of the game that you were in? I stopped playing on the 31st of December. I played monthly I paid daily for a month, and I'm fine. I don't miss it. I'm not having withdrawal symptoms. And I can honestly say I've probably got close to 3 hours of my life back every day. I'm not getting up and making it the first thing I do in the morning. There's so much more time in my day that I can do things that maybe it's actually a little exercise of, lose yourself in something for a while and then stop it and then come back out and go, goodness, how much time I have. But here's the important bit. These are the insights that I want you to understand. So let's stick with the game analogy to start off with. Sometimes when we start a game, we can't find an exit strategy. We don't know when to stop. Within a game, there are often distractions that are hard to resist, something that takes you away from your primary focus. Sometimes the game starts to feel like work and it stops being fun. That sounds a bit like an advert for a gambling product, but keep with the game analogy for a minute. Sometimes the game costs you more money than you'd originally planned. Sometimes you think you're in a community, but someone's actually making money from you. They aren't real people. They aren't real friends. You think you have friends, but you don't. You think people care about you, but they care about themselves. And that's if they're real in the first place. And then lastly, the game takes so much time. It takes you away from important family occasions. Now, imagine if instead of the word game, we were using the word work or business or maybe investments. And let me turn those insights, and they're just my insights. You will maybe have got other insights, including Vicky's a lunatic, which is perfectly fine. But if we take those insights and we actually start to phrase them as a question, how many times have you embarked on a job, a business, or an investment without a clear exit strategy or a way to retire, a way to withdraw? And that's why we all need to create a clear, wealthy life plan. Clarity is so important. It provides the direction, the focus, and even helps you with your determination to create the life you want and not to get sucked into things for which there are no end. What about how many times in your life have you made a plan and then been distracted? Being clear on how you want to live your life is one thing. Staying true, staying focused is a huge skill. And that's why successful people have mentors to hold them to account. If you don't have a plan, you are open to all sorts of distractions because you don't actually have the one thing that you are trying to achieve. And when I say one thing, that one thing can be made up of many subroutines. We talked about this in the goal episodes last week and the week before. If you don't have something that you want, some direction that you're heading, the things that are distractions aren't even recognizable as distractions because they are just passing you by. And how do you know whether this distraction or that distraction is actually the thing that you're meant to be focused on? That's the role of a plan. That's the role of a mentor. That's the role of accountability, the definition of accountability, if you like, understanding what you want to achieve and then heading in that direction. So what about, has your job, your business, or your investments ever started to feel like a drudge, a job? They're taking too much of your time, taking away time from the things that are important to you. And understanding what's important to you is a vital part of any business or life plan. What are your priorities? And from knowing how you want to spend your time, then crucially, what that wealthy life that you want to live will require financially to fund and make it possible. Now you can see why control, the second principle of a wealthy life, financial control, is such a key and vital principle, vital habit for anyone who wants to achieve success. So if it's starting to feel like you're in a job, even when you're not in a job, or your job is starting to get you down, going back and thinking about what's important to you could be a vital step in helping you move beyond this, finding a path where you can get round this obstacle, this need to do whatever you're doing, into a position where the life that you're leading is actually one of your own design and more fulfilling for you. And because we've mentioned money, and obviously there was money involved in this game, understanding your finances, both personally and in business, and of course property, is so vital. I spend time with all of my clients, regardless of their initial income, savings, or even investment experience, discussing money maths. It's not disgusting. I'll say that sentence again. Goodness. Understanding your finances, both personally and in business, property, life, is so vital. I spend time with all my clients, regardless of their initial income, their savings, or even their investment experience, discussing money maths and money management. It matters. Money management is actually the key to time management. If your money is sorted, then it's so much easier for your time to just fall in place because you're not struggling to make money in order to have the time to do the things you want. It's already organized. And I think another maybe slightly more personal insight is understanding who has your interests at heart, who's on your side, who are your friends, and who are there to just make money from you. That's a tough life lesson. Have you got friends where you're always the one that pays for lunch or for coffee? Have you got people in your life that give as much as you do to you, that there is a balance there? Yes, of course, in business, you're going to pay for business advice. But that's why understanding the return on your money invested in that advice is as important as understanding the return on the time that you're going to invest in getting that advice. So looking at the time and the money that you have and how you spend it, whether that's with friends, real friends, people that are just out to take from you, maybe. I hope you don't have too many people like that in your life. Or whether it's from a business advisor, it's understanding the role these people play in your life and who's got your back, who is supporting you, who is lifting you up, and who is pulling you down. And understanding those differences are crucial. And then, of course, time itself, possibly evenly, more arguably important than money itself. How do you want to spend your time? What's important to you? What would you do if you didn't have to work just to pay the bills? Creating a wealthy life plan that starts with your preferred lifestyle, then identifies the budget and the resources that you need to make it a reality, is a radical way of planning your future. It's not following the mold. It's not necessarily following in other people's footsteps unless they're on your path. It's about deciding what matters to you first, what's important to you. And I would argue the time that we have is our most important resource. How we spend it, who we spend it with, what we spend doing, and the impact that the time that we spend has on others is also a fabulous outcome of being able to plan your life. It was a very long story because I was very involved in my township game, but I hope that this story has explained in some ways why the first 50 episodes have focused on clarity and control, mindset and finances, the two founding principles of a wealthy life. I can't help you if you don't know what you want. I can help you face those challenging questions that will take you from living a life that someone else has designed for you to creating a life of your choosing. But we have to be a partnership in this. And by talking so much for so long about mindset, about clarity, I hope there have been plenty of inspirational stories in there as well, talking about control and finances, that I have given you enough tools now that we can move on. I've talked about the importance of money maths and having a love of spreadsheets so many times, you're probably sick of hearing me. There is a reason. Unless you master the maths, how can you expect to understand the investment opportunity? And that's where we're going next. How can you ever leverage your resources in such a way that they will start to work for you? And in doing so, contribute to creating the wealthy life, one where you don't have to work just to pay the bills, a life of your design, a life of your choosing. And it does start with understanding the maths, understanding how money works, so you can identify the opportunities that are right for you, and equally rule out the opportunities that are not right for you. So in the show notes of this podcast, I'm going to share about a dozen or so of the most crucial, I think, must listens to before we embark on the next series of A Wealthy Life. And over the coming months, we're going to move on to explore the world of building wealth through property investment, and of course, property in general. If you like, property for the next generation, yours and your family. So there are 12 podcasts, as I said. Some that are right at the start are going to give you an overview of why you might be considering that there's something more to life and what it means to live a wealthy life. In fact, the first 5 podcasts that I recorded way back in early 2022 are there to help you understand the position that you might be in and why you want to move from the position that you are in. They will look at the concepts of money and there'll be some practical tips and the consequences of not paying attention as well. And in the last 4 podcasts that I recommend in the notes, I'm going to ask you some challenging questions, from how and why you think the way you do, to asking you about your motivation and how that can impact on your behavior, your mindset, and so your results. Why not, given that we were talking last week about the ability to set goals and that powerful sentence, you can set your mind to anything that you can achieve anything you set your mind to. I'm going to get the sentence right. You can set your mind to achieve anything that you choose. Why not choose to take a couple of hours out, go for a nice long walk, take these podcasts with you, and prepare yourself for a real step change over the next series, where I'm going to take you from a position of clarity and control into practical lessons on leveraging your resources so that you can make your money work harder and you can take another step closer to living the wealthy life that you want to. Do check out the show notes. Thank you very much for listening. I knew that I was committed to making a podcast, but I still can't believe that 50 episodes have come around so quickly. I thank you very much for your time, as always, listening to this. And I hope that the story about playing a game on your phone registered with you and resonated and maybe made you think of things that are going on in your life. And then those very specific questions I asked you about money, time, who is supporting you, they prompted you to think a little deeper so that you can now move forward with the knowledge that you can be successful, that you understand the importance of money and maths, and you understand the importance of having a direction leading to this wealthy life that you want to live. And that in doing so, eventually we'll come to this, the outcome, the legacy, the life that you create for you, for your family, that spreads out into your community. And maybe we can spread out further and start having an even more positive income, an even more positive outcome on those around us will become clear. Very best wishes, and I will see you next week for episode 51, where we're going to start talking property.